What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. The NBA is back. Shooters be shooting. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. I'm actually recording this just prior to the two Tuesday night primetime games. But tonight, Wednesday night, when you are all watching this, my Cleveland Cavaliers will be retaking the court after a tremendous last season with a big addition of Donovan Mitchell. And NBA of my sports is definitely my favorite. That evening activity, just to know that NBA games are going to be on from now until the summer. Absolutely fantastic. So today we're going to dive in, talk, just generally chit chat about the NBA, some card stuff, some non-card stuff. So like, comment, subscribe. You guys and girls know the drill. First up, predictions. Eastern, Western Conference. I am going Sixers in the East, Nuggets in the West, and I'm giving it to the Sixers. I think this year is their year. I know a lot of people are picking them. I also think the Nuggets are being slept on a little bit. A lot of it is built around the health of Porter and Murray, but the Joker is Joker. And I like a lot of the other fringe moves the Nuggets made during the offseason. The 76ers, it's all about Embiid, and I think Harden is... He's never going to be Rockets Harden again, but I do think he's going to be a lot better. I think Tyrese Maxey takes a leap. I really like the Anthony Melton pickup. Tobias Harris is whatever. He's not necessarily a key cog. He's a luxury piece, maybe even traded. Who knows? Obviously, the concern is Doc Rivers in the playoffs and Embiid health. But those are my finals picks. So curious for yours in the comments down below. Go ahead and fire them in. Who's winning the East? Who is winning the West? The Eastern Conference is extremely interesting this year because there are a boatload of good teams. A boatload of good teams. Like, there is going to be a couple really good teams in the play-in game. Like, the Cavs and the Hawks could easily be in the play-in game. Easily. I mean, you have the Sixers, you have the Celtics, you have the Nets, you have the Heat. That's 4 right there. The Bucks, 5. That's 5 teams already. You have the Raptors, who is going to be really good. That's 6. Cavs, 7. Hawks, 8. That's already 8 teams right there. 2 of those teams that I just listed off are going to be in the play-in. And the Raptors, Cavs, and Hawks are all pretty tightly grouped together. I'm a little concerned about the Heat. Maybe age finally kicks in on Jimmy Butler. I really like the Raptors. I think the Pistons are going to be a little bit feisty, maybe tempt the 10 seed potentially. I think the Hornets are going to absolutely suck. We're going to talk about them more in a minute. I don't really like the Bulls. I did not mention them earlier. Some people probably have them fighting for a play-in spot, maybe as a 9 or 10 seed, but I don't think it reaches the level of those other teams. And then the Knicks are going to be in play, probably for a 9 or 10 seed as well in the Eastern Conference. Magic, they could be a little bit feisty. Wizards or whatever. And then the Pacers are going to be full Wembayana, Tankathon. But the East itself is just absolutely loaded. There is going to be not very many easy nights in the East. The West, also pretty good, but not quite. I think it's just a little bit more laid out. You have the Suns, you have the Warriors, you have the Nuggets, whatever the Clippers end up being. I think the Kings could be a little bit spicy. Like, I'm talking like 9 or 10 seed spicy. Let's not get crazy here. Pelicans should be really, really good. God knows what the Lakers. Grizzlies are going to be good. I think Timberwolves are going to be good. Mavericks, I really don't know what to do with the Mavericks. I'm actually a little bit concerned about Luka. And I love Luka. I'm not concerned about Luka. I'm concerned about the Mavericks. There's a decent chance Luka's in a play-in game. Like, I just ran through a bunch of teams that could easily finish in the top 6. So that would all of a sudden force the Mavericks into a playoff game. Luka could have a very short playoffs this year. I do not like the Mavericks offseason at all. Love Luka, but hate the Mavericks offseason. Clippers are a real wild card. And then you have, the Jazz and the Spurs at the bottom in full tankathon. I think the Rockets won't be good, but they will be entertaining to watch. Probably them and the Pistons will be 2 of like the better bad teams, if that makes sense. Like, you're actually intrigued to watch them play because they have a lot of really fun young talent to check out. So that's just kind of some overall NBA takes. I mentioned it earlier. The player that I am most concerned about in regards to his card prices is LaMelo Ball. I've talked about this, I kind of hinted at a few times. One, I'm just not a big LaMelo Ball fan when it comes to like where his card prices are and the player itself. I don't think he is a Batman. He is not the leader on. He's not the alpha on a championship team. I think he is a B, like a Robin, or even a C, like maybe like a Nightwing, if you want to go that far on it. I just don't think that he is definitely not a one tier player. He's not like a Giannis level player where he's going to lead the team. I feel like he's more of a B or C level player when it comes to that. Two, I don't think the Hornets are going to be very good at all this year, so that's going to affect his prices. Three, he's already hurt to start the season. That's not a good look. They lost their best player, Bridges, to off the court stuff. Gordon Hayward is always hurt. That team could easily be blown up and then get in the Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson sweepstakes. To me, his prices are absolutely insane. We'll kind of talk about it here for a second. I have a bunch of Silver Prisms pulled up. His Silver Prism PSA 10, I do need to put a little note on this, a little asterisk. It's going for $1,500. Anthony Edwards goes for $1,000, and Edwards is a way better player. Part of this is, and if you look at raw prices, they're actually closer together. The LaMelo PSA 10 is extremely low pop. It's one of those cards where there was an issue with the printing. I think almost all of them are off-centered, I believe. The pop on his PSA 10 is only 195. For comparison's sake, Anthony Edwards is 914. So it gets a little artificial price boost because of the added level of scarcity. If you look at raw prices, they are much closer together. Raw, a Prism Mellow sells for 178 in a silver. Ant-Man sells for 171. That being said, if I had a PSA 10, really anything LaMelo, I just think is a huge risk factor. Just scrolling through the list here, so essentially what I've done is just searched Prism Silver Rookie PSA 10 and just sorted it by most expensive to least expensive. Dame comes up in the number 1 slot. You got to keep in mind, older Prism, that's only pop 37 on that. That being said, I would not want to spend $2,500 on a Dame Prism. I'm a little worried that maybe he got a little too old. Luka's in at 2,200. I feel okay about that. I am concerned about the Mavericks. I still think Luka is going to be the best player in the league for a long time. Joker at 2,100. Devin Booker at 1,600. Zion at 1,500. That's an interesting one as always. LaMelo at basically 1,500. No thanks. Ja at 1,000 and Ant-Man at just under 1,000. Then we kind of scroll down here. Tatum only at 950. It's just funny to see Tatum at 950 and see LaMelo at 1,500. I would much rather have Tatum. And don't get me wrong, most of these guys that we're talking about, all of their prices could go down. I just think Tatum has less to fall than LaMelo does. Tyrese Maxey's I thought was intriguing, but to me at 560, there's already a lot baked into that price. Ben Simmons at 550, someone else could take the ride on that train. Scotty Barnes at 480. We'll talk about the 21 class here in a couple minutes. Trae Young's already down to 440. SGA, I love the player, but I don't love the situation. He's at 400. There's a good shot that they end up shutting him down halfway through the season again. Now, if they potentially deal him, maybe he sees a price bump depending on where he goes. But as much as I love SGA, I just think there's a lot of risk built in with his prices because of the team that he is specifically on. Scrolling down, now is where things actually kind of start to get a little bit more interesting. Brandon Ingram from 2016, under $400 at pop 190. He looked really good in last year's playoffs, and the Pelicans are going to be really buzzy this year. That just seems intriguing to me at that price point. I own none of them, so this is not me pumping. But just that price point, when you compare it to some of the other players out there that we just read through, that's at least semi-interesting to me. Now, typically, once the season starts, a lot of these players go down. When you get into these lower value guys, that's where things get a little spicier, that have a chance to actually go up because they overperform the expectations put on them. But the intriguing thing there is that it's older Prism, so it's lower pop. That makes it interesting. So it's easier to swing the price on something like that. But I just think Ingram really showed some stuff towards the end of last season, and I really like the Pelicans team heading into this season. He could have a really, really big year. We'll see how he meshes with Zion being back. That's the one like X factor there. When he kind of blew up last year, it was when Zion was out. He's back now, can the two of them figure it out and coexist together. Scrolling on down here, Darius Garland at 265. That's my boy. I don't own any Garland silvers, I don't believe, but I own a bunch of other Garland. I actually think his numbers take a little bit of hit with Mitchell in town. But overall, I think the Cavs are going to have a very good season. We will see how far they can end up getting into the playoffs. And speaking of Donovan Mitchell, we have him up here at 405. Seems reasonable depending on what type of season they can end up putting together, how the two of them kind of mesh. As we continue to move down here, another interesting one to me, and this is a huge injury risk. This is very boom bust. Michael Porter Jr. at $200 for a PSA 10 silver. Seems intriguing once again. I don't own any. I'm not running out to buy any, but I could easily see if he comes out of the gates hot, that potentially moving up. Tons of injury risk with that one. I mean, mountains of it. Bad back is nothing to mess with, but he's looked pretty good in the preseason so far. RJ Barrett, a lot of people love him. I've always been kind of on him. At $200 is reasonable enough. De'Aaron Fox is intriguing at 185 as well. The Kings are getting tons of preseason love, and you could kind of see it. Once again, I don't know if they can crack past like an 8, 9, 10 seed, but if they do, Fox is probably going to have a pretty good year. This is the best team that he's had around him in a really long time. So if he's going to do something, now would be the time. I've always liked Patrick Williams as a trendy guy. I don't know about him for 175 when I could go after a Barrett or a Porter or a Fox for a little bit more. It would take a lot for him to bump up at that price already. Anthony Simons at 170 is a little bit interesting. He could potentially break out. A lot of people really like him as like a project player. I've always just been kind of on him. He's fine. He just kind of seems like a one-trick pony with scoring. Moving down here, Jalen Brunson, he got his off-season bump from moving to the Knicks, I guess, not necessarily a trade. If he really, really blows up, maybe 160 seems cheap. Don't know. As we scroll down through here, Cole Anthony, he had a nice little year last year. We'll see if the Magic can get some trend behind it. DeAndre Ayton at 110. Man, big guys just get no love. Him and Jarrett Allen going for the same price. Allen obviously had a monster season last year. Colin Sexton, sent to purgatory in Utah. He could have big numbers there if they just kind of let him run the team, and they don't really have a lot of other people to take shots. Obviously, they're going to have one of the worst records in the league, and maybe he ends up getting flipped again. But numbers-wise, he could probably actually put up some pretty decent numbers. The man, the myth, the legend, Bull at $100. It still cracks me up that card sells for $100 in a PSA 10 when there's actually like legit NBA players down here. KPJ, a fan favorite. I made a bunch of money off of him back when he was on the Cavs and super cheap. $85 for his PSA 10 silver. He just signed a brand new extension. Manuel quickly. DeAndre Hunter is another one. If he could ever put it together, I've always been kind of enticed by him at 75 for his PSA 10. And then we get down into the really, really cheap. Cam Johnson at 45 is intriguing. I believe he's starting for them now since Jay Crowder is about to get traded. He's kind of more of a role player, not necessarily a ball dominant guy or anything like that. He's a better than average 3-and-D. So, maybe 45 is fine with that. If he would ever actually put it together, that would probably end up looking pretty cheap. I would rather have 2 Cam Johnsons for 90 than 1 Bull for 100. I can tell you that right now. Let me just kind of scroll down and see if there's anyone else interesting on this list. Kobe White always gets buzz. I was never really that big on him. And now we're down to the dollar box guys, almost. Malik Monk, Derek White. So that's just kind of a quick general rundown of at least the more modern to ultra modern guys. The one thing I wanted to flip over and talk about is sealed wax. I've been kind of hinting at this also for quite a while, and I did. So full disclosure, I bought 2 retail boxes of 21 Prism basketball, so I do have a horse in this race. I still say, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is, that 21 wax, though probably overprinted, is an interesting angle. I do not think it should be selling for cheaper than 2020. When you look at the prices, I'm looking at hobby boxes here, which is not what I have. 2019, which is Zion and Jaws, going for $1,650. 2020, which is Edwards and LaMelo is going for $14.85, and then 2021 is going for $9.50. The 2021 class is way better than the 2020 class. I went ahead and just sorted by raw silvers because on the 2021 side, there's really not enough PSA 10s on the market. And obviously 2021 silvers are going to be a little inflated because it's the hot new product. We're still in the process of opening it all. It all hasn't hit the market yet. So factor that in. But in 2020, you have LaMelo and Edwards at 170 a pop, basically leading the class. The LeBron tribute dunk at 110. And then it drops all the way down to Tyrese Maxey at 50. James Wiseman, Tyrese Halliburton at 22. I can tell you right now, I would much rather have Tyrese Halliburton at 22 than James Wiseman at 48. As much about him being a big man as it is anything else. I think he just gets a bump because he is a warrior. Hell, I'd rather have Desmond Bane as well. Desmond Bane, very good player. Patrick Williams, interesting flyer. We kind of talked about him earlier. But that's kind of your guys. Like, it's really tied up in Anthony Edwards. Once again, I'm not a believer in LaMelo, so I kind of look down a little bit. But still, you have two guys in the class carrying the weight. Those boxes have been out for a year, so supply has dried up a little bit. You could see only 15 have sold in the last 90 days on eBay on 2020, where 138 2021s have sold because it's a brand new product to market. Kind of makes sense. So supply has dried up a little bit. I don't see any reason at all why this $950 2021 can't be up towards this $1,300-$1,400 range this time next year if you're willing to sit on it. When we look at the 2021 class, and once again, I feel this class is absolutely loaded. There's this narrative in the card market that the 2021 NBA class is kind of eh. I could not disagree more. Jalen Green is going to be really, really good, at least put up big numbers. Cade, I would much rather have Cade than LaMelo any day of the week. Scotty Barnes, absolutely amazing player. Evan Mobley, big guy, get it. But if you're telling me Evan Mobley silvers are $50 and they sell for the same price as James Wiseman silvers, that's a little bit crazy to me. Even if, this shows that it dipped down. Maybe this was just a rogue sale. That's why I don't like looking at raw, because maybe this was like a damaged card or something like that, or it was way off centered, went for 54. Even at the, let's call it $80 some mark, I would much rather have Mobley over James Wiseman, like just 10 times out of 10. Kuminga is intriguing, more of a long-term project player, but he looks really, really good. He has a lot, I shouldn't say he looks really, really good. He has a lot of the tools that NBA people fall in love with. Josh Giddey, tons of people love Giddey. Franz Wagner, never going to be a sexy name, but he actually had a really, really good season last year. Moses Moody is another intriguing player on the Warriors, young guy. Io is going to get a ton of run as the Bulls starting point guard. Davion Mitchell is more of a defensive specialist. And then you get into kind of more of the flyer guys. But just this five at the top, Green, Cade, Barnes, Mobley, and then kind of depending on how you want to slice it, Kuminga, Giddey, one of those two, really the top four, and then some flyers. Way, way better. Now, Edwards, is a different story, but it's Edwards kind of by himself in this class. It's really just him and Maxey with a little bit of Halliburton. Here, you have four really solid guys. I mean, really solid, like NBA All-Star level players. And then a bunch of fun flyers like Moody and Giddey and Kuminga and Davion Mitchell and those sorts of guys. So I just think this 2021 wax is still being slept on. I may look to try to track down a hobby box this week. I'm going to see if my local LCS may have one on the shelf and snag one and just sit on it, or if I run into more retail boxes. The retail boxes, there's no huge chase hits in them. There's pink pulsars, which are retail exclusive. But to me, the downside risk is not that much on them. They go for $130 on eBay. I got them for about $115 each because I bought two and paid cash. I just don't see much downward risk on that. when you're getting in at that decent level of a price point. Those used to sell for way, way more retail boxes of Prism, but it's a new market that we're in. I am perfectly fine sitting on those for a year plus. Another nice thing about that lower dollar wax is that, sitting on it doesn't hurt you as much because you don't have as much money tied up in it. But those boxes for almost the same price as a blaster box. I like the retail boxes with the 24 packs or whatever's in them. So that's all I have for you guys and girls today. Just kind of a quick general overall take and some thoughts on the, NBA in general, and then just some general price stuff. I didn't really talk LeBron at all. He has the big scoring record chasing this year. I feel a lot of that's baked in already. I think LeBron's prices are going to be more dictated on how the Lakers play, which you all have already seen that by the time you're watching this video because they play in a couple hours after I finish recording here. But I think the prices are going to be more dictated off, are the Lakers relevant or not, more so than him chasing the scoring title. That's all. I think a lot of that is baked in. I could be wrong, but that's my gut feeling on that one. So like, comment, subscribe. Catch you guys and girls on the next one. Cavs Raptors tonight. That's extremely exciting regular season game to start the season. I will be locked in to that one. Catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.